What's up, everyone? Jeremy Girard from Mythic Customs here with one of my short customizing tutorial videos. Today's video, we're going to look at a project I completed recently that I'm super excited about. Very complex project, in fact, and I want to show you how all of these videos that I've been sharing, all of these little tips and tricks that are one single thing, one little tip and trick here, how when you add them all together, you get something like this. So this beast that I have on the side of me is a piece that debuted recently at the ZoloCon event. If you were at ZoloCon in Pennsylvania, you probably saw this guy at the Wolf King Customs table. It was a special piece that they debuted there to really give fans something to be excited about. And I was super enthused to be able to contribute to it. So let me show you a better picture of what I'm talking about right here. And it's this crazy set. So this is a project that Walter DeMarco of Mass Customs worked on with Len from Wolf King. They decided they wanted to do something really unique, really kind of over the top and cool. So they created a custom troll head to go on any of the trolls. It fits on any of the trolls. Here it's painted to match the forest troll, but realistically, you can use it with any of the ones that have the removable head. So the stone troll or the forest troll could go on either. But it's got a little seat on top of it that you can place a goblin character. So that's what I did here. I painted a goblin to sit on top of this. Now, super detailed, super complex, but as I said, to create something like this is simply a series of small pieces along the way. All these little lessons that I've been giving. So I thought it would be fun to record a video that kind of takes you through the step-by-step of how I painted this. So I did this. I took pictures along the way to share with you. I do have them right here. I'll pop this head off. I'll hold it up here. So this is what we're looking at. This absolute beastly thing. So the way that this started, let me bring up my first picture to share here. So this started like any other 3D printed piece. It came to me and it was a totally unpainted print. Here's what it looks like. So here's a couple different pieces. So the first thing I did, and I didn't take a picture of spray painting it, but the first thing I did was I based this out in black spray paint. I've done videos before talking about the spray paints that I use, talking about the base colors that I like to use, just my Krylon black matte spray paint. I spray painted this to start with. That gives me a nice consistent color that I can now lay on top of. Next picture I'm going to share here. I've done a video before talking about thinking about layers. Now, this was incredibly important. So you're going to see a lot of these photos that I'm going to share look like this. I was painting this to match the forest troll. So I used that forest troll head as my control. That forest troll head is going to be in all these pictures because I had that on my table the whole time because that's what I'm trying to match. So the first step that I did here, I just told you I was talking about layers, thinking about when you look at a piece, you have to say, okay, what's the underlying color? What are the pieces that are going to go on top of it? This particular figure has an incredible amount of detail. Because it's a troll head that's got that saddle type helmet thing on, there's like a leather strap under his chin, and there are ropes and there are chains. There's so many like three-dimensional parts to the sculpture that you can't paint around those things. You can't paint around the strap and around the chain. You have to paint over them with whatever your base color is going to be, and then paint the color of those elements on top of that base. That's what I'm talking about with layers. So what you're seeing here on the left, obviously, is the custom head. That's my first base color. And to do this, I really wanted flat coverage, so I watered down the paint considerably. I've talked about this before. As much as I love to dry brush, dry brushing only gets the exposed parts of the sculpture. A lot of the underlying crevices and pieces, those won't be touched when you dry brush. It's not what I'm going for here. I really wanted it to be that green color. So I mixed up a green that I thought would match the forest troll. And I actually took a forest troll and I take that head and I dab a little bit of green on the nose of the forest troll, trying to get a match. If I dab it and it's a little too bright, I just wipe it off. I'm dabbing it on that head and I'm just wiping it off, trying to find a match. When I get one I like, I water it down, and then I'm going to paint that onto the head here. So this is really sloppy. Like that bit that he has in his mouth, I get tons of green on that. I get tons of green on the teeth, on the straps. That is okay. At this level, what you're concerned about is laying down that base color. So that's step number one. Share the next one here so you can see the next step of this process. And again, these are all lessons. These are all individual tips that I've shared in the past. So now I'm getting a little bit close. I'm getting a little bit more detailed. So now I'm trying to do that chin. So that chin, I'm mixing up another color and I'm dry brushing that on. Now I do want full coverage, but I'm trying to be a little more controlled here. So I dry brush all of that on. You can see the different colors. And then I'm taking a little bit of brown. So I've got that greenish, almost like that olive green. Then I'm taking some brown and I'm watering down the brown. And I'm doing a bit of a wash around the lip area to really get those browns in there. That's actually a little bit different than the Forest Troll head. I put a little bit more browns around the lips than the Forest Troll head did. And that's another lesson. I'm using this as my example, as my inspiration, but I don't have to be exact. I can kind of play around a little bit and do some things differently. So that's what I'm doing here. You can see a lot of this is still unpainted. The skulls that are basically dangling on chains or on his neck, those aren't painted yet. The metal on his head isn't painted. The teeth and the eyes, none of that is painted. So this is the second piece here. I'm doing that chin and I'm dry brushing that, getting the colors I want. Once again, I'm painting over those belts. I'm painting over those chains. I can't be precise enough not to paint them. So I've now layered another coat of paint on top of that base coat on all of those pieces. Moving along, next one here. We got a lot of different images because this was a multi-step process to get this thing done. So this is the next one. So now it's a little hard to see, but if you look right around his chin, you can see that I've now started to paint those belts. So one of the things that I did, and I've done this to the teeth and everything here as well, when you do those overpainting, and I've talked about this, when you overpaint parts, it's okay that you got green on the teeth and green on the belts. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a much finer brush and I'm going to repaint all those things black. Okay, because even though I don't want them to be black, I want to get that black base coat back. I want to get back to that black base coat. So I wanted the teeth to be black. I wanted the straps and the chains and the belts. All of those things, I'm going to paint them black, being very, very careful, very, very precise. So what ends up happening at this stage is I've now used my really watered down paints to do the green base coat. I've done the dry brushing of the chin color. I've done another watered down wash to get some brown there. So those are all areas that are going to bleed and are really, really messy. Once they're all dry, now I'm going in and being more precise. I'm blacking everything back out so I can start laying on those next colors. This is where I'm starting to get more detailed. Seems complex, but again, these are small steps. If you look at my videos, I've done videos on literally every one of these things as just, okay, this is how to do this. This is how to dry brush. This is how to do a wash. This is how to, paint in layers. It's just putting all of these pieces together. So here's the next one here. So you can see now here, I'm really starting to make some strides. I've now painted the eyes. So I painted the eyes black to begin with. And then I do those yellow pieces in the middle. That's one of the things I love to do with these eyes. You're going to have a really hard time if you paint the yellow and then try to rim it in black. Much, much easier to paint the whole eye black and then to paint the yellow on top. Be confident when you paint that yellow. If you want those eyes to look really, really nice and smooth, you have to dip your brush in that yellow paint and you have to commit to it. You have to hit that and just really let that wet paint fill that eye, just very, very carefully, very, very confidently. If you start to try to go over it again, you're going to get the brush strokes and the smudges. It's not going to be nice and clean. Let the paint just flow in. But by painting that black first, you get that nice rim. I painted the teeth using a color that I like by Vallejo called Buff. Did that there. Painted the skulls there. The same patterns, the same kind of things that I've done before when I've talked about like painting a Malleus skull. I use really, really similar effects here. Did a little bit more greens on this one to give it almost like a dirty kind of mossy type look, I guess, because it's a forest troll after all. But really similar to the examples, to the tutorials that I've given before about painting skulls, building this up one step at a time, one step at a time. Next here. So here we go. Now this one, so might be a little hard to see because you're not comparing them one picture to another, but what you should focus on in this one is now I have done some dry brushing on the helmet. So up until now, the helmet was all black still. Now I just take some silver, that Craftsmart metallic tin that I always talk about, that I really love. If you watch my videos, I talk about that color all the time. I use it extensively. Dry brush that on to get that kind of helmet, that seat type helmet piece there. Now on that seat, on that helmet piece, and pull this piece off here, you can see there's actually literally a little seat right there. So as I do all of the helmet in that metallic, then I'm going to come in and I'm going to use a little bit of brown to do the furs there. I did some brown on the handle just to break up some of those colors there. Not a problem at all. Dry brushing, we've done this many, many times on my tutorials, many times on Mythic Conversations. You guys are all probably really comfortable with that. Building this up one step at a time, one step at a time. Again, look back at all my videos. You'll see videos about all of these things, all of these individual steps, one at a time. Here we go. Now here, we're starting to, I painted the skulls more, right? So I had the skulls as kind of that greenish type color. Now I'm going in, I'm painting the teeth. I'm adding in a little bit of dry brushing on the buff to really give it that color that I want here. I'm painting that bit in the mouth, the details there, the silver details. You can see it's all painted. I've painted the chains and the belt around his neck. I've dry brushed that brown. I'm just going in, I'm dry brushing, I'm adding these different pieces one step at a time. As you look at this, you see all these different details. That's what we're doing here. None of these pieces, none of these things that we're looking at are things I haven't talked about before, things you haven't done. This is, again, really starting with watered down paint to get the base coat, some dry brushing, a wash, more dry brushing, doing the eyes like I've told you to do. We get to the point where we do the gloss. So I did a video before called how to get that wet look on, your customs, and it uses like a gloss type overcoat. So here you can see those teeth are nice and glossy. That's what I've done. I always let the gloss dry, the paint dry for 24 hours. Then I come back in. I use the gloss on the eyes. I use the gloss on the teeth, around the gum line, so it gives it that real natural look. Here I've also painted those horns. So I've dry brushed those horns, which are the last pieces that I actually had on the head that I wanted to do. So one step at a time, building it up. Really complex looking. Took a lot of time to do this, but it's a series of small steps. That's what I really want to impress upon you in this video, is that when you look at something like this, whether it's a piece that I've done, whether it's a piece that any other customizer has done, know that everything that they are doing, it's just a series of these steps. If you look at all these tutorials and you say, I can't believe he's doing a video on dry brushing, or I can't believe he's doing a video on this basic, painting technique, this basic customizing thing, that's because so many customizers, so many would-be customizers, they look at something like this and they think, oh, I could never do that. That's way too complex. It's not. It's a series of small steps. It's a series of super basic pieces, super basic techniques, just one after another, used in the proper way. You can see this guy's got all these chains dangling. That's literally the last thing I did. The sculpture actually has areas that, you can put chains, or, it's got like hoops where you could put chains. So I went to a craft store and I got some chains. I just got some chains and some connectors, and I put those all on. And that's something I've talked about many, many times, using parts from other toy lines, from unexpected things to do something totally different with your figure. And the end result, let me bring up another picture of the end result here. See that? So here we go. This is another picture of the final troll, and you can see really good paint match, looked really good. It's got the detail, it's got those chains, it's really, really fun. You can see the legs on the goblin that are hanging out there. And that goblin is literally just a goblin legion builder with a little bit of dry brushing to make him look nice and dirty, and a custom head that I painted with a lot of the same techniques that I just showed you that I painted for this guy. So no matter how complex the piece, if you break it down into the series of really small custom painting techniques, really small ideas, really small methods that you can use along the way, that is how you take it step by step to achieve this. Nothing is insurmountable. If you take it step by step, if you look at my tutorials, there's a reason why I do them the way that I do, because I know that if you understand each of these simple techniques, because none of them are hard. None of these things are difficult to do. Nothing I did on this is difficult. I'm telling you that. As cool as this looks, as happy as I am with this is probably my favorite thing I've ever painted. Like sitting down and looking at this when I was done, I was incredibly happy with the end result. But I was even happier when I realized that everything that I've been telling you on my short videos, on Mythic Conversations, really equals something like this. So I want to get started one step at a time. Take it very, very simple. Follow those basic tutorials, those basic customizing tutorials that I've been giving you on my channel, that other customizers may give you as well. You master each one of those things, put them all together, and you get something like this. If you enjoyed this video and you enjoy others like it, please let me know in the comments. If you want more videos like this, or you want to be notified when I put a video like this live, please consider subscribing to the channel. Until next time, I can't wait to see what you make.